My name is Jack Pettipas.
Mm-hmm.
My birth date is March 21st of 1933,
Mm-hmm.
and I was born in Malden, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about your family background.
Well, it's not too good. I come from rather a separated family. I grew up in a, well, let's say for the most part during World War II, in a orphanage in Newton Highlands, Massachusetts, called the Working Boys Home, run by the Xavier brothers. From there, I went to a lot of foster homes, to high school and everything. And in 1952, upon graduating from high school, I enlisted in the United States Air Force for the Korean War was on at that point.
I'm from Air Force too. I taught the cadet in Air Force Academy in Korea.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
We have a lot in common.
My father was also pilot of F-4D.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was a superintendent of the Air Force Academy in Korea.
Very impressive.
Yeah, I will show you the picture later, okay?
Yeah, I have to see that.
So good to have Air Force because it was Army and Marine this morning.
Oh, really?
Now we have Air Force.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good.
We played a very important part.
Absolutely. It was critical.
Absolutely.
It was critical, yes. Must have been hard for you to grow up in orphanage and foster home.
Yes, it was, but you know, you have to take the punches as they come. You know.
So you're a strong man.
Well, you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
My mother was 33 years old when she died, and my father was murdered. He was 39 years old.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I was pretty much on my own, you know, and sort of had to work my way around. But in the long run, I'm here.
Okay, good. So when the Korean War broke out in 1950, how did you know about that?
Of course, it was, you know, advertised in the papers and everything. I heard a little bit about it during school. And of course, there was a draft at that point, you know, and you either got waited and you got drafted, you know, or you enlisted. So, and there were a number of people who did not want to participate, so they got college deferments, which I'll tell you later on, affected us later in life.
Right.
You know, when we got out of the service, we didn't have that 4 years of college. And when we went to look for a job, those who went to college and avoided, you know, being in the service had the opportunity of getting the jobs ahead of us. We came out with high school diplomas, and everywhere we went for a job, we were told you don't have the experience. You only have a high school diploma. So it was rather difficult. I, you know, worked a whole lot of different jobs along the way to get to where I'm at.
Did you learn anything about Korea from your high school?
Oh, from the high school?
Yeah.
Not at that point. There was no, you know, like when I went to Korea, you didn't know us and we didn't know you. So we had an education we had to combine.
That's exactly the point that I want to emphasize, that nobody knew nothing about Korea at the time, that when they were dispatched, right?
Right.
So what was your reaction to the news that there was a war broke out in Korea?
Well, the memory of World War II was fresh in my mind. And we thought that, you know, that was the war that was going to end wars. And of course, 4 years later, here we are in Korea. And we really didn't, we knew what the effects of war were in World War II. The devastation, the destruction, the displacement. But we really, at that age, didn't understand the repercussions of what, you know, it was all about. It was, let's put it another way, a new adventure for us. being 18, 19 years old. We didn't know what the future held.
Mm-hmm. So where did you go to receive the basic military training?
Sampson Air Force Base in Finger Lakes region of New York.
Ah,
Geneva, New York.
Geneva, New York.
Yeah, you know Syracuse.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see that.
yeah.
That's where I had
Very
my...
close.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
In fact, while I was there in basic training, I went through my first initial basic, and near the end, I got pneumonia because I was a very, very cold place,
yeah.
and I had to repeat basic training. You know.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Because I was hospitalized.
In Geneva?
Hmm?
In Geneva?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you stuck with the Geneva.
Oh, yeah. Well, it conditioned me for Korea because it was cold there too.
So you had enough training there
Yes.
to be adjusted to the cold weather in
Yes,
Korea.
Right.
Why did you enlist for Air Force? Why not Army? Why not Navy? Why not Marine?
Because in my estimation, as I said, I had to work my way through high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not afford to go to college. I didn't have the grades and I didn't have the money and I didn't have the family. And I thought that was a better opportunity to get an education than the Army or the Marines. I figured I'd be in a better place.
Even during your military service?
Yes.
Or after the service?
Well, I had no idea what was going to happen after the service. So it was during the service, you know, I had to find out, you know, who am I, and what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm. Mm. So what kind of military training, Air Force training you received, and what was your special unit? What was your specialty?
Well, I was assigned to a classification and assignment similar to career guidance. Now that involved testing Air Force personnel for upgrades in their rank and their jobs. It involved assigning them to different assignments throughout the country and the world. So and I was on a base in Daegu, you know, Daegu,
Yeah.
which was more a refugee center. And
what do you mean by casting and classification? Could you spell?
Yes, well, testing and classification meant that to move up in your rank, you had to take a test to advance.
Yeah.
A qualification test. And that involved a series of questions, a series of experiences and knowledge to, you know, be eligible for the next higher rank. Once you did that, we had rosters that was worldwide and also in Korea, different assignments. So on the various, you know, openings, I would assign personnel to different spots throughout Korea or throughout the world.
Wow, very important position.
Yeah. And I would also have to fly into, there's an outfit called Skawaf, all right? Skawaf is where Air Force personnel were assigned to different remote locations in Korea. So I used to have to fly in a spotter plane into these locations where, you know, there were Marines or there were Army units, and I would have to test the Air Force personnel at those units because otherwise they would be robbed of not getting advancement.
So you involved with a lot of documentations of each soldiers, and you going through and you find that where it's going to be the best place for them, right? Huh, very good. So when did you leave for Korea?
When did I leave for Korea?
Yeah.
In 1952.
What month and day? Do you remember?
I take that back. I left in 1954 for Korea.
54?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember what month and date?
I think it was September of 54.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, 54, 50, yeah.
So you went to Korea after the war?
Yeah, just after that.
Right. Mm-hmm. And did you fly to Korea, or did you
Oh,
go?
when I went over?
Yeah,
Oh, it was a troop ship.
troop ship.
USS Anderson.
How was it?
It was an experience, let me tell you. I mean, you had these four, troop ships, these four, these bunks all the way up, not bunks, but, and you hope that the guy in the top didn't get seasick because he would throw up. He didn't want to be, he didn't want to have to get out.
Did you stop by in Japan?
Did I stop in Japan? I don't recall. Yeah, well, of course, the ship landed in Japan.
Uh-huh.
You know, and from there, I was sent into Daegu.
You went to Daegu straight from Japan?
I went to Korea straight from Japan.
To Daegu or
To
Busan?
Daegu.
To Daegu?
Yeah.
How? Fly?
Oh, no, yeah, we flew over from Japan. To see
from
Japan.
Japan to...
Yeah, C-119.
How many were inside of the airplane?
Oh, 30 maybe.
And what was your mission there in Daegu?
Classification and assignment.
Tell me about...
Doing a lot of, guard duty and all the other stuff that came along with it on flight lines. And at that time, the F-86 was the aircraft of...
Right. So you might have a sort of more detailed information than other U.S. soldier about the scale and how many pilots and how many soldiers within K2, the Daegu, right?
I was in the 58th Fighter Bomber Wing.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about that. How many pilots, how many airplanes, what kind of airplanes,
and
and
so
so
on? F-86, but I don't recall the numbers.
Uh-huh.
F-84s and F-86s.
Can you give me some sort of big picture of how big that K2 operation was?
Oh, it was a very good size, but it was also, you're familiar with Korea, of course. At that point, it was more Daegu. K2 was the site.
Mm-hmm.
Was more a refugee center for the people coming from the north. They were still, even after war, there was still massive amounts of people in Daegu, refugees, that fled south. Now, while I was there, I had this Colonel Orlando Stevenson from Tulane University. He had been called back to active duty, and he was he was somewhat responsible for establishing the English Language Institute of Daegu. All right?
Wow.
And he solicited me to go, off my duty time, to go into Daegu and to instruct students on conversational English at the Daegu Institute, English Language Institute. Now, some of these students said they would spend a half a day just walking to get to this site, which was it was a bombed out building with pot-belly stoves for heat.
Who are the students?
Who were the students?
Yeah.
They were Korean youth.
Really? How many? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't remember the numbers, but there was, a number of students were very much interested in the United States and everything else. Like I said before, you didn't know us and we didn't know them.
Right.
And I remember one of the other instructors that I had with me, he came from the south, New Orleans or someplace. I came from the
Korean or American? Korean or American?
American.
American.
Yeah. he came from the South, and I, of course, came from New England.
Yeah.
So these Korean students could not really understand the accents.
And dialectics.
Right. And another major question I had, I always remember this, some of the students wanted to know, you know, the differences between an apple and an orange. Now, they didn't know what oranges were, and they did know what apples were.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So it's
they never seen orange.
No, so it was very hard to try to explain. But we did the best we could.
You couldn't show the orange at the time?
No, we didn't
You
have
didn't have orange?
No.
Okay.
But it was funny. But and I here's some of that documentation I gave you. One of the students was very interested, and he wanted to come to the United States to study.
Oh.
And so I got involved with this sergeant, and we got in touch with the university. I got the paperwork, a Presbyterian college, and we tried to get a scholarship for him and get money. We tried to raise money to get him over here so he could study. It's from the president of the college stating that he would, you know, do what he could to help us get this student to the United States.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, here's Lamar. It's signed here.
It's Hwang Jang-hae.
Oh, that's the student's name.
Yeah,
And
student's
the
name.
president of the college.
Right. Wow. So did he make it?
I don't know, because when I got back from my assignment back to the States, I never did get a follow-up on it.
That's a Presbyterian Junior College.
Right.
Where, in California?
No, in North Carolina.
North Carolina. And the letter dated February 9th of 1955.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is more correspondence on that because we did communicate over time trying to get this thing done.
Maybe we should look for Mr. Huang to see if he's alive and what
Yeah.
he is doing.
I don't know how you would do that, but maybe you could.
Yeah.
Because at the time, you know, I was very much aware.
Now we can
I
try.
was very much aware of there's a book out called The Ugly American at that time. And worldwide, we didn't have a very good image.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have a very good image. So I was very much aware that we had to project to the Korean people that we were not all monsters in the United States, and we were a good people, and we were out for your interests.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully some of that carried over to this day, because I'm sure some of those students at the English Language Institute came away with a better feeling.
Any students that you still...
No, like I said, my tour of duty was a year. When I came back, I was assigned other things.
Mm-hmm.
I never did get follow-up. But one other thing in regard to that, while I was there, I contacted the state of Massachusetts, and I asked them if the Department of Education, if they could send surplus textbooks in English to Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a letter here from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts where they stated they would, you know, make an effort to get that done.
That's very nice.
There again, I don't know what the outcome was because I got, you know, back signed to the United States.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I think I did my part.
Were there female students in your class?
Not that I recall.
All boys?
All boys.
Mm-hmm. How many in the classroom?
You mean in the Tegel Institute?
Yeah. In your class, what is the classroom size?
Oh, it's just a room bombed out. It was like a...
No, I mean the number of students in one class.
Oh, I would say maybe 30.
How do they behave? Did they good? Were they good?
Yeah, I thought they were good, you know. I wouldn't know the difference. Like I said, the English Language Institute, I spoke the English, they were learning it,
Yeah, right.
conversational. So I don't know what they were saying in Korean.
What else did you do in K2? Did you just serve within the Daegu, the K2, or did you go some other post?
No, I served in Daegu, but as I said, I flew around in spotter planes testing SCAWF personnel, for upgrades in their rank.
Tell me about that one typical day that you flew over some other spot, the post, and then to test or interview other Air Force men.
Well, it was interesting because when I flew into a Marine detachment or an Army detachment, and there were Air Force personnel there, and I was in an Air Force uniform, of course, there's a little rivalry between the services, so I took a little harassment along the way, Air Force guys, you guys don't know what, we're doing the fight, and you guys are doing the, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, but it was flying in a spotter plane, small engine plane, flying low over, different sites. Although the war had ceased in 1954, it's still, there were still air pockets, and I recall on K2, on guard duty, there were still infiltrators who bombed out, mess hall and stuff like that. There were houseboys who were actually not Korean. Working with the partnership, and I had a lot of contacts, and of course, I was helping my son get established in his business. And so I was able to get him business because there was a lot of conferences and a lot of meetings, and he supplied the equipment for the conferences and the meetings, the audiovisual, like we're doing here. You know what I mean? And then I went out on I'm retired, so after I left the partnership, I went out and I did sales work for him and built his company up by doing a whole lot of stuff. Now, he's a very, very, very successful businessman today. He owns the audiovisual company, he owns real estate.
That's very good. When did you marry?
When did I marry?
Yeah.
1958. Been married 55 years.
You are endangered
Long
species.
before you were thought of.
So now you have a very successful family.
With my sons, yeah, well, like I said, one's in New York and the other one's in California, so I don't really, see them that often. But yeah, they're, my oldest son is he was a pharmaceutical salesperson, and of course Stephen, the younger one in New York, runs the audiovisual business and a number of other things. So I'm very proud of them. I made sure that they would not have to go through the life I went through, and, it was straight and narrow. You have to keep them on it. I remember their teenage years. I remember all these stuff they were exposed to. And I mean, I know because I lived through it. In fact, David Rockefeller asked me once, where did I come from? And I said, from the best slums in the country. I lived in Los Angeles, I lived in New York, I lived in Boston, Charlestown, and East Boston, and some of the, So, I grew up in those environments. It's called survival.
Wow, you are a man of self-accomplishment.
Well, I don't know, but I would say, wrapping up here, the 4 years I spent in the service were the most important of my life, because I came out of high school not knowing where I was going or what I was doing. I needed a foundation to try to find my direction, and I was serving my country for a good cause. You know what I mean? I was very disappointed about coming out and not being able to get a job and have to work my way through a whole number of jobs to finally land and stay in a Western Electric.
Yeah.
I spent 27 years with New York Tower and Western Electric.
So you actually came out of very good of your service.
Yeah, that was a foundation. we don't let it be forgotten, because I've been very instrumental in establishing memorials here on the Cape. In other words, we have a memorial on Route 6, the Cape, across Cape Highway, at the rest area. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not. I went out and I single-handedly raised a lot of money to get that memorial built. It has flag poles. We fly the Korean flag, United Nations flag.
Very good.
And the highway on Route 6 from exit 5 to exit 7, I worked with the state legislature and Demetrius Asalis, the local representative from the Cape, to get that renamed the Korean War Memorial Highway. So there is a sign there that establishes both sides as the Korean War Memorial Highway. And then Hyannis, next to the Kennedy Memorial.
Yeah, I saw that.
I went out and I worked with a lot of people and raised money to get that built. So that was all in an effort to make sure the Korean War veterans and the Korean War people were not forgotten. I was their first chaplain.
Chaplain?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Are you...
Chaplain. I'm not a religious or dean, but I was appointed chaplain of the association. And I also wrote their first chapter prayer, which some military organization asked me, can they use? And this is it. Maybe you might look at that.
Can you read it?
Oh, yeah. Can I read it?
Yeah, please.
This is the chapter prayer. We meet at the VFW in Hyannis on the last Thursday of every month, the Korean War Veterans Association.
Yeah.
And as part of that, me as chaplain, I have to read the prayer.
Yeah, please.
So the prayer is,
Yep, go ahead.
Lord, let us honor the men and women who paid the aqueous sacrifice, and let us never forget the cause. Let the wounds heal of the wounded, but not forget the reason and the source. Let us never forget the missing, and pray and work for their return. Let us develop vision and direction, and pay in tribute to all men and women who proudly carried the shield of freedom, and not forget the sacrifice of separation from families. Let us educate our children and grandchildren in the lessons of freedom of democracy, achieved through sacrifice in honor of country. Let us have the vision to continue our mission, and God bless America.
Wow, that's a nice
I
prayer.
compose that.
You
Right.
Christian?
Yeah. Am I Christian?
Yeah.
I'm a Catholic.
Catholic.
Yeah.
Your vision is same as mine. I want to educate your own grandchildren so that they can carry
Right.
your legacy.
Oh, yeah. And for my grandson in California, he's very much aware of that.
So you should really talk to him soon as possible, asking him to join my workshop.
Yeah, I will. I will contact him.
Yeah, he should play a positive and very the strong leadership role in this organization that I'm launching this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And we really want to gather more people so that we can hold up. Okay?
Yeah, I will definitely, let him know about this.
Yeah.
Send him your brochure.
Yeah. And you should help my foundation so that we can spread all this information.
Oh, yeah. Well, we do everything we possibly can
Yeah.
to keep that alive. As I said, our numbers are diminishing.
Yeah.
We have less and less, just like World War II.
In 10 years, there will be no many.
Well, I'll be 90, so I'm working on that.
You will have a longevity, but there is a.
Oh, I know.
Everybody's numbered in their life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's by God that we are numbered, and when we disappear, we need to have our descendants to carry, and that's my biggest goal. That's what I'm doing right now, and I'm trying to raise more funding, so that I can give them more scholarship, more incentives, so that they can do or act on this cause.
Well, we and I personally hope that our relationship with South Korea remains strong, although there have been areas over the last few years, where there's a little dissension. You know, it's not the same. I don't want to use the term gratefulness or you owe us anything, because you don't. We owe you the opportunity for be able to serve and to prevent communism from spreading throughout with a domino effect.
That's awfully nice of you to say that. But we owe you, and we thank you.
Well, as I said, it was our pleasure.
Yeah, it's very important to activate our own grandchildren, but I don't think many Korean War veterans really talked about their service to their own grandchildren.
Now, let me ask you about the Korean children.
Yeah.
What do they feel about the Korean War? Today's college and
it's getting weaker and weaker, to be honest with you. And that's why I want to build this memorial, digital memorial, not in the physical museum, but in the website.
Right.
So that anybody from anywhere in the world can have access to your interview and your letter that you wrote back to the president of that seminary. And in order to bring Korean students to be educated in the United States. That's a very,
I hope today, I don't know what happened to him, if it came about, but at least he had the incentive and the motivation to want to come to this country, to get educated in this country, and to learn from this country and bring it back to Korea.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I don't know what the result is, but today, the Korean government, the Korean people, I hope they're beneficiaries of that. You know what I mean?
Anything that you want to say to American young generation about your service, about the war, about patriotism and nation?
Just remember we did it for you, the American youth. Where you are today, where we are today, is a result of our sacrifices, not only just ours, World War II, the Revolutionary War, all wars.
Civil War.
Right. The end result is you, the youth, your life and where we go from here. Hopefully we remain in a good, democratic, free nation. You know, don't take it for granted, because today very, very few people really understand on our youth of what the effect on their future can be. We're complacent. We're complacent. We take things for granted. You know, when you stop taking things for granted, it's too late. You've lost what you had. So that's about what I can tell them. Appreciate and do for your country what we have done for you.
Why is it important to have our alliance between U.S. and Korea keep alive?
Because we look at North Korea, we look at China, we look at nuclear threats from North Korea, right? We look at the threat for China. We do not believe in false friends or false enemies, you know. I don't trust China.
Why is that?
Well, because when the Chinese came across the 38th parallel in thousands and killed many, many Americans, right? When the communists took over from Chiang Kai-shek, right? And they went to Taiwan, you know, and they established the Chinese communist nation. I do not believe. They killed democracy, they killed free spirit, right?
Thank you very much again for your fights and your service.
Thank you for your interest.
Thank you.